So today, we're going to dive into something really fascinating, an ancient system designed to map out the future. It's this incredible mix of art, science, and, let's be honest, a whole lot of mystery. We're here to deconstruct the art of Raml. You know, it's a question we've all asked ourselves, right? Can we ever really know what's coming? Well, this exact question is what drove people for millennia to create these incredibly complex systems, all trying to find some kind of order in the chaos of what's next. Okay, so what is the system we're talking about? It's called Raml, and it's a form of geomancy that traveled all the way from the ancient Middle East through the Islamic world. And here's the part that's going to blow your mind. For something that seems so mystical, it actually has this surprisingly logical, almost mathematical structure behind it. So, at its heart, Rama isn't just, making random guesses. It is a formal process. It's all about generating 16 specific symbolic figures and then reading them based on a very particular set of rules to try and get some insight into a big question. Now, what I find really cool is how the classical thinkers looked at this. They didn't just lump it all together. No, they broke Ramal down into 3 totally distinct types, and each one is defined by where the knowledge actually comes from. First up, you've got the learned type. The best way to think about this is like a really complex board game. It's a skill you can actually master. It's all based on a clear set of rules, careful calculations, and just practice. This is the version of Ramal that you can actually teach and learn from a book. Okay, the second type, the inspired, is where we move away from pure logic. This isn't something you're going to find in a textbook. It's believed to come from your own intuition, from spiritual insight, and it really depends on the personal, inner state of the person doing the reading. It's all about that internal vision. And then there's the third one, the miraculous. This one's in a whole different league. It's not even considered a human practice. We're talking about absolute, perfect knowledge that comes directly from divine revelation. It's seen as completely infallible and something only prophets could access. So for the rest of our time here, we're going to zero in on that first learned type, the one people can actually do. So how does it really work? How do you go from what looks like a bunch of random dots to a structured, meaningful answer? Let's break it down. Well, it follows this surprisingly clear 4-step process. First, you create 4 mother figures from a random pattern of dots. Simple enough. Then, from those first 4, you use a really precise set of rules to derive 12 more figures. After that, all 16 figures get placed into a chart of houses, and each house represents something different, like wealth, travel, relationships. And finally, the diviner looks at all the patterns to come up with a judgment. And this is absolutely crucial. This internal logic, this system of rules, is exactly why, historically, Ramal was thought of as an ilm, a science or a formal discipline, and not just some hocus-pocus superstition. Which of course brings us to the big question, right? If Ramal has this logical, structured, rule-based system, why isn't it always right? Why doesn't it spit out a perfect, correct answer every single time? Okay, let's get into the heart of it because the answer really reveals what Ramal is all about. The classical practitioners themselves actually pointed to 3 main sources of error, 3 reasons for all the uncertainty. First up, well, it's us, the human factor. It could be a simple mistake, like a miscalculation. It could be a personal bias when interpreting the symbols. Or it could even be the diviner's own mental state. If you're tired or anxious, that could totally throw off the whole reading. But it doesn't stop there. Next, you have all these external factors. Traditional wisdom says that everything matters. The exact time and place you do the reading, the tools you use, whether it's sand or paper and ink, even the energy and influence of the person asking the question can introduce new variables. And this last one, this is the real kicker. The uncertainty is literally built into the DNA of Ramal. The whole thing kicks off with a random act. The meanings of the figures are symbolic. They're not based on direct cause and effect. And maybe most importantly, you can't test it. You can't empirically verify it. So, when you take all this into account, from simple human error to the very nature of the system itself, where does that leave Ramal? Is it a science as we think of it today? Is it a miracle? What is it? This chart really lays it out perfectly. Modern empirical science, that's all about cause and effect, stuff you can verify through experiments to find predictable laws. Ramal, though, its foundation is symbolic and probabilistic. The method is interpretation, and the goal isn't certainty, it's insight into what's possible. And this is also why it's definitely not a miracle.
Remember that third category we talked about, a divine miracle? By definition, is supposed to be an act of absolute certainty. But since Raml is probabilistic and full of potential errors, it can't be that. It's a human system, and that means it's fallible. And look, this isn't some modern hot take. Just listen to this powerful quote from the classical scholar Sayyid ibn Taus. He called Raml a conjectural method and said, flat out, we have seen them sometimes be wrong and sometimes be right. He was acknowledging the uncertainty from the get-go. So what if we've been looking at this all wrong? Maybe the real value of Raml isn't about predicting the future with 100% accuracy. Maybe it's a structured, symbolic way to think about really complex problems and explore different paths. It's more of a framework for thinking than it is a crystal ball. Which leaves us with one last, really fascinating question to chew on. If Raml can't give us certainty, then why has this art of structured uncertainty managed to stick around for thousands of years? What does that tell us about our own deep human need to find patterns, to create meaning, and to build frameworks that help us navigate a world that is, at its core, fundamentally unpredictable?